Hey friends, Tony here from TL Yarn Crafts with another fun and free crochet pattern. This time we're making the Mesa Hat, a Tunisian crochet beanie that is perfect for beginners. Set off on your next adventure with this playful slouchy hat. The use of color changing yarn with a neutral heathered accent gives this hat a unique look that I am obsessed with. While watching this video, I strongly encourage you to follow along with the full Mesa Hat pattern available on my blog, TLYCblog.com. You can also purchase a printable PDF version of the hat pattern with the matching scarf from my website, TLYarncrafts.com. Links to both of these resources are in the description. Now, if you're excited to make the Mesa hat with me today, please like this video and consider subscribing to my channel for even more free crochet patterns, product reviews, and tutorials. Now let's talk materials. To make the Mesa hat, you'll need 2 worsted weight yarns. Our colorful layer will be this Lion Brand Landscapes in the color Desert Spring. Our neutral will be Lion Brand's Heartland in the color Grand Canyon. In addition to the yarn, you'll need a 4mm crochet hook, a 6.5mm corded Tunisian crochet hook, a pair of scissors, and a tapestry needle. We'll start the brim of our hat with the Heartland yarn and 4mm crochet hook. Begin by leaving a nice long tail, about 6 inches or so, and make a slip knot. From here, we'll chain 7. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. In the second chain from the hook, we'll place a single crochet. So here's the first chain, and we're looking for the second chain right here. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2 to complete the single crochet. And we'll single crochet in each chain down the line. So here's 2, here's 3, here's 4, here's 5, and the last one makes 6. 6 single crochet. For the next row on our brim, we'll chain 1 and turn our work. And in these single crochets, we're looking for the back loop. You can see we've got a front loop here, and right behind it is the back loop. That's where we'll insert our hook for our ribbing. So insert your hook into the back loop of the next stitch, yarn over, pull up the loop, and complete the single crochet. And we'll do that for each stitch down the line. Inserting the hook only in the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's 2 stitches. Here's 3, here's 4, here's 5, and the last one makes 6. Let's do that again together. We'll chain 1, turn our work, look for the back loop of that first single crochet here. There's a front loop, back loop is right behind it. Insert your hook into the back loop, yarn over, pull up the loop, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and single crochet in the back loop only for each stitch down the line. That's 4, here's 5, and that's 6. So you can see we've got really pretty rib happening already. You can see it on both sides. We'll continue that until we have 67 total rows. Meet me back here when you finish your ribbing. So I've just finished my ribbing here. I have all 67 of my rows, and I can switch from my 4mm hook over to my 6.5mm hook. From here, I'm going to insert my 6.5mm corded Tunisian crochet hook into my loop, and I'm going to find the ends of my rows all the way down and pull up a loop. Now this doesn't have to be precise, but you want to do it as neatly as possible. Here's where I like to pull up my loops. For this row here, I'm going to pull up a loop kind of in the base. So I'm going to go right in here, yarn over and pull up a loop. And I'm going to keep that loop on my hook and make sure this row doesn't get too tight because it'll be tricky to work into later. So for the next row, I'm going into this next hole right here. And for these next 2 rows, again, I'm going kind of in the base of that row. And then right next to it, there's kind of a hole right there. And I'm just going to go right into that hole. Base of the next row and into the hole of the following row. And I'm going to do that for each row down my ribbing. When I'm done, I should have 67 loops on my hook. I've now pulled up my loops and I have all 67, so I can do my return pass. I'll start off by yarning over and pulling through 1 loop on the hook, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we'll do that until we have 2 loops left on the hook, because then it'll be time to change color. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Again until we have 2 loops left on the hook. Here we go, we've got 2 loops left. So we're going to drop our heartland yarn, but we're not going to cut it. We're going to carry our yarn up the side of our work as we continue. So I'm going to grab landscapes here, yarn over, leaving a nice long tail, not too long though, and pull through those last 2 loops. So I've now changed color, and I can continue on to rows 2 and 3. So for rows 2 and 3, we're just going to simple stitch across the row. So keep in mind that the first loop on our hook counts as our first stitch, so we're skipping this first vertical bar and looking for the next vertical bar. Insert under that bar, yarn over and pull up a loop. Insert, yarn over, pull up a loop. Insert, yarn over, pull up a loop. And we'll do that for each stitch across the row. So by the end, we should have 67 loops on our hook. Join me when you get to the end of the row, and I'll show you how we'll do that last stitch just a little bit different to keep the ends of our work neat. So we're here at our last stitch. Remember, this is just the tail that we left that long tail from, which we'll use later, but we have 1 stitch left here. So before, with our Tunisian simple stitch, we're working under just 1 loop. For this very last stitch, we want to work under 2 loops. So if we take a look at our work, rotate it towards us, we'll see that we've got kind of a front bar, and right behind it is a back bar. We want to make sure we catch both of these loops for our last stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook under both of those loops. Yarn over and pull up the loop, and that completes the last stitch. From here, we'll do our return pass, which starts with yarn over, pull through 1, then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And here we'll do that until we have 1 loop left on the hook, because we'll need to do 2 rows of simple stitch in this color. So that's the end of row 2. For row 3, we're going to repeat this same thing, doing Tunisian simple stitch all the way down the line. Now on the return pass for row 3, we're going to stop when there are 2 loops left on the hook, and we're going to change to our heartland color. So now we've got 2 loops left on our hook. So I'm going to drop my landscapes color and pick up my heartland color, which is still attached to my project, yarn over, and pull through those last 2 loops. Now here we'll begin the row that includes our special stitch. So we'll want to simple stitch the next 2 stitches. Remember, the loop on your hook counts as the first stitch, so we'll skip this first bar here and we'll simple stitch 2. Now for the next stitch, we have to do our special stitch, which is called the extra long Tunisian front post double crochet. Believe me, it's a lot easier to do than it is to say. So here we go. We'll yarn over our hook, and then we want to find the stitch 3 rows down. So here's 1 row, here's 2 row, and here's 3 rows. We want to find both the front and back loop of that stitch, which are right here. And what we'll do, and don't forget your yarn over, is we'll insert our hook from front to back to front around those 2 bars, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And that's how we'll do that post stitch essentially. So we've got the first loop that was on our hook, our 2 simple stitches, and our special stitch. We're going to follow that with 3 simple stitches. So here's 1, 2, 3, and then our special stitch again. So we can track down 3 rows, 1, 2, 3 rows, making sure that we find both the front and back bar of that stitch, yarn over, insert your hook around both of those bars, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And we'll repeat that down the row. So simple 3, 1, 2, 3, and our special stitch. Simple 3, 1, 2, 3, and our special stitch. So remember, we're tracking down 3 rows, finding both the front and back bar of that stitch, inserting our hook around both of those bars, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1 loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. So you can see that we're achieving that block look. So we've got our heartland color surrounding a block of the landscapes color. Really beautiful, really simple. So simple 3, 1, 2, 3, and our special stitch, yarn over, going down 3 rows, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, and simple 3. And we're going to repeat that down the line. Meet me at the end of the row. So we're at our last repeat here. I've got my special post stitch, and you can see I have 3 stitches left. 1, 2, and 3. So I'll work my next 2 as normal. And for my last simple stitch, I'm going to work my last stitch here on the end, making sure I insert under both loops of that last stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. So by the time you're done, you should have 17 blocks of color. So this would be a block. There's 1, 2, 3, and so on. So you can keep count that way. And from here, we're going to do our return pass. Yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, and we'll do this until there are 2 loops left on the hook, and we're going to change back to our landscapes color. Alrighty, 2 loops left on our hook here. We're going to drop our heartland color and pick up our landscapes color. Yarn over, pull through those last 2 loops, and now we're just going to simple stitch across for 2 rows just like we did before. And on the second row, we're going to change back to our heartland color when we've got 2 loops left on the hook. Go ahead and do your 2 rows of Tunisian simple stitch in your landscapes color. And join me back here. We'll do 1 more row of our special stitch together. Alrighty, with 2 loops left on the hook after that second row of simple stitch, I'm going to switch back to my heartland yarn, and we're going to jump back into our special row. So we've got 2 stitches of simple stitch, and then we have our extra long front post double crochet. Now we'll know exactly where to put it because essentially the post stitch is going to go right on top of where the last post stitch was. So I'm going to find that stitch that's 3 rows down, make sure I have the front and back loop identified, yarn over my hook, inserting my hook around both of those bars, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2. Simple 3, 1, 2, 3, and a post stitch. Simple 3, 1, 2, 3, and a post stitch. Simple 3, 1, 2, 3, and a post stitch. By keeping your gauge really loose and even here, it'll make getting down to those stitches a lot easier, working around them. So we've got our beautiful stitch pattern working up now. It's looking really, really good. We've got 2 loops left on our hook, and again we're going to switch to our landscapes color. Now to continue the body of our hat, we'll want to keep working these rows, so 2 rows of simple stitch in our landscapes color and 1 of our special rows in our heartland color until we have 6 sets of these blocks. So right now we have 2 sets. Continue until you have 6 going up that way, and then we'll do a little bit of decreasing for the crown of our hat. All right, so taking a quick look at our work, we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 blocks. So for our next row, we're going to, of course, switch to landscapes, and we're going to do 1 row even in Tunisian simple stitch, just like we've been doing before. And in the next row, we're going to do some decreases. For our second row of stitching here with our landscapes color, we're going to start with a decrease, which is TSS 2 tog, or Tunisian simple stitch 2 together. And the easy way to do that is just insert your hook under the next 2 stitches, just like that, yarn over and pull up a loop. And there's your decrease. We took 2 stitches and turned them into 1. And now we'll simple 2 and decrease. Simple 2 and decrease. Simple 2 and decrease. Simple 2 and decrease. And we'll essentially do this until we have 4 stitches left. So we've got 4 stitches left here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're going to simple 1, decrease, and then make our last stitch right here. At the end of this row, you should have 50 stitches. You can count your stitches, of course, by counting the loops on your hook, but there should be 50 of them. And then we'll do our normal return pass here and change color to our heartland color. So this row, which includes our special stitches, is going to look a little bit different. We're going to simple 1 here at the beginning, and then we've got our post stitch right underneath this stitch. So we're going to go down and do our post stitch like normal. And instead of simpling 3 in between our post stitches, we're just going to simple 2. So we've got 1, 2, and our post stitch. 1, 2, and our post stitch. 1, 2, and our post stitch. So we'll work that across the row, then of course do our return pass, and we'll change to our landscapes color at the end of the return pass. So here at the beginning of this row, we're going to skip this first stitch and simple the following stitch, and then we're going to decrease over these next 2 stitches with a Tunisian simple stitch 2 together, simple 1, decrease, simple 1, followed by a decrease, simple 1, decrease. And we're going to do that until we get to our last 3 stitches. Simple 1, decrease. Oop, there we go. Simple 1, decrease. Just to the last 3 stitches. So we've got our last 3 stitches here, 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to simple 1, skip 1, and then work our last stitch, making sure we get under both loops of that last stitch. Then we'll do our return pass as normal, and we can move on to the next row. In this row, we're going to do a decrease all the way across until we get to our last 2 stitches. So starting in the second stitch, and with the third stitch, we'll decrease. The next 2 stitches will decrease. Next 2 stitches, decrease. Next 2 stitches, decrease. We're doing this until we have 2 stitches left in the row. So we've got our 2 stitches left. There's 1 and 2. We'll simple the next stitch and work our last stitch, making sure we get under both loops. Pull up the loop, chain 1, and do our return pass. So that's the last row we have of Tunisian stitches. We're going to do our bind off now. So we want to slip stitch bind off loosely. So we're inserting our hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through both loops on hook. Insert, yarn over, pull through both. Insert, yarn over, pull through both. And we want to keep this fairly loose, but we will cinch the top of this when we're all done. Insert to the next stitch, yarn over, pull through both, slip stitching across the row for each stitch, including the final stitch. Now we'll want to fasten off, but we want to leave a long tail to seam our project up. So essentially what we have here is kind of this open piece of fabric. When we're all done, we're going to bring these two sides together to create the bottom of our hat. So what I like to do, just to make sure I'll have enough yarn to seam this inside here, is I'm just going to measure 3 lengths. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3 lengths of yarn. I'm going to now cut and pull that loop up and out of my work. At this point too, I can fasten off my heartland color. And I'm going to take a moment and weave in these ends here. So this is where I had to change balls of yarn because I ran out. This is where I added my landscapes, and this is of course where I fastened off heartland. I'm going to make sure that I don't cut off this long tail that I left in the beginning, and I don't want to cut off this long tail that I just clipped. Just weaving in these ends. The next step is to take this tail and we're going to cinch up the top of our hat. So just thread that tail onto a tapestry needle, and very gently, because this yarn can be a little delicate, we'll want to pick up loops around the top of this hat. So the only loops that we're going to grab are what look like the front loops. So starting right here, I'm going to pick up just the front loop, and I'm going to work all the way around for each of those slip stitches at the top of the hat. Again, I want to keep this pretty gentle because this yarn can split on you super fast. There we go. So I'm not tightening it as tight as it can go, but this is good for now. And then I'm just going to slip under a couple other loops here to just create a knot so that we don't have to worry about that loop coming out. Okay. Now I'm going to continue with this tail to seam up the sides of my work. So I'm going to even everything up, and I want to make sure that the colors on the left match up with the colors on the right. So let's zoom down a little bit, brighten things up, and I'll show you exactly what I'm doing here. I'm going to do what's called a mattress stitch. So I'm going to find the stitch on my left. I'm going to go into the inside loop on that side and the inside loop on the other side. So that's just kind of my setup. Now I'm going to go on the inside loop of the stitch I just worked and come up on the inside loop of the next stitch. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And I'm going to continue that down the hat. So just working this inside loop here and up to the next one, inside loop here and up to the next one, inside loop, just making sure I grab the one loop, and inside loop on this side. So since this yarn is so delicate, I don't want to go too far before I have to pull. So I'm just going to pull gently, and you can see that seam basically disappears. So we're just going to continue in this way, grabbing the inside loop of the last stitch and coming up the inside loop of the next stitch on both sides. Keep things even, take your time, and join me here when you finish the stitching for the body of the hat, and then we'll seam the brim. There we go. So that finishes up the seam here. So I'm just going to take this tail and weave it into the inside of the hat. And then we left a long tail at the very beginning, and that's to allow us to seam up the brim without any of the color from the landscapes yarn showing. Now you can continue with the mattress seam stitch if you want to. Since this is all just one color, I'm going to take the easy way out, and I'm just going to whip stitch this closed. So I'm holding the two ends together, and I'm just going to thread right through for a whip stitch. And weave that end in as well. So my hat is just about done. I think this hat especially loves a topper. I just, I can't stop staring at it because every single hat is a little bit different. So this is the hat that I just made, and this is the original. Even though these are the same colorways technically in the same direction, this one has a little bit more of the pinks and blues and dark red. This one has this really beautiful pop of red and yellow at the top, a little less purple down at the bottom. Every hat looks a little bit different. Now on the original hat, I did make a large pom-pom out of the leftover landscapes yarn. There is clearly plenty left if you want to do that, but honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I'm getting a little bit lazy and I have a whole bunch of these faux fur pom-poms hanging around, so I'm gonna throw one on really quickly and show you what I like to do to make sure these always look great. First step is to shake it out. You can use a blow dryer or just shake it up really good, and that'll kind of loosen up the fibers of these faux fur pom-poms really quick. And then I will use the tails to go in at the top of the hat. So just with my tapestry needle, I'm threading on that tail, and I'll go about 1 or 2 rows down from the top. So I won't go in the very top because that won't give my pom-pom much stability, but I'll go about 2 rows down. So there's one side, and then 2 rows down on the opposite side of my top here. And then if I know that I'm gifting this, or if I know that I want to use it and wash it eventually, instead of just tying this, I'm going to put a button here, and it'll make it much easier to untie it and take the pom-pom off so I can wash this hat. So I've got maybe a 1-inch coconut button here, and I have a smaller tapestry needle that I'm going to thread the end of this pom-pom onto. And I'm going to go into my button on this side and then do the same for the other end. Just like this. And that way I can very easily push that button to get that pom-pom tight on the top, and then I can just do a loop here and my pom-pom will be secure, and when I'm ready I can just loosen that loop, take the button and the pom-pom off, and it'll be good to go. Yay, it's all done. I love this hat so much. It's so fun and cute and playful. I think it takes to just about any kind of pom-pom, so don't feel like you have to get a faux fur one, but the yarn pom-pom looks beautiful as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me to make the gorgeous Mesa hat. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.